Hey there, welcome back. If you've been staring at a mountain of dry legal notes and feeling, well, completely overwhelmed, you're absolutely in the right place. Today, we're putting together the ultimate cheat sheet for the foundational sections of Hindu law. By the end of this explainer, you're going to have these concepts totally locked down, crystal clear, and ready to help you absolutely crush your exams. Look, we all know the stress of trying to memorize endless statutes and case laws, right? It usually just feels like you're staring at a literal wall of text that absolutely refuses to stick in your brain. But don't worry, we're going to take all that chaos and organize it into a logical, memorable funnel. We'll start wide with the big picture of the Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 and then zoom all the way into the exact, granular definitions you need for complete mastery. Okay, let's dive right into this.
Here is our game plan. 1. Mapping the Marriage Act. 2. Who exactly is a Hindu? 3. The Karan Goyal case. 4. Defining custom and blood. And 5. The Sapinda rule decoded.
Section 1. Mapping the Marriage Act. Now, notice how breaking this down instantly lowers your cognitive load. The Hindu Marriage Act of 1955 is basically divided into just 6 chapters. Seeing it condensed like this gives you awesome mental anchors. Chapter 1 is preliminary, and that covers sections 1 to 4. Chapter 2 handles Hindu marriages, sections 5 to 8. Then we move into the heavy hitters. Chapter 3 for restitution and judicial separations, sections 9 and 10, and Chapter 4 for nullity of marriage and divorce, sections 11 through 18. Finally, Chapter 5 covers jurisdiction and procedure, sections 19 to 28a, and Chapter 6 wraps the whole shebang up with savings and repeal in sections 29 and 30. Memorize this framework, and you'll always know exactly where a specific legal concept lives.
So starting off in Section 1, the absolutely crucial thing to grasp is exactly where and to whom this act applies. It extends to the whole of India. And please, highlight this in your minds. This includes Jammu and Kashmir as of October 30, 2019. But here is the most important word: domiciled. The act applies to Hindus domiciled in these territories, even if they're currently outside of said territories. That word domiciled, yeah, that's going to be the absolute key to unlocking our case study a bit later on.
Section 2. Who exactly is a Hindu?
You know, when we're evaluating applicability, it's honestly just as much about who isn't a Hindu as who is. The Act explicitly includes anyone who's Hindu by religion in any of its forms or developments. This includes Vaishnavas, Lingayats, and followers of the Brahmo, Parthana, or Arya Samaj. It also explicitly includes Buddhists, Jainas, and Sikhs. Conversely, it explicitly excludes anyone who is Muslim, Christian, Parsi, or Jew by religion. This stark contrast is the key to locking down jurisdiction.
So legally speaking, there are basically 3 clear pathways to becoming a Hindu under the Act. First, by birth. That means a child whose parents are both Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, or Sikh. And notice this critical detail. It applies whether the child is legitimate or illegitimate. The law absolutely does not discriminate there. Second, a child with just one parent of these faiths, as long as they're brought up as a member of that tribe or community. And third, through conversion or reconversion to the Hindu, Buddhist, Jain, or Sikh religion.
Section 3. The Karan Goyal case.
Enter the 2021 Delhi High Court case, Karan Goyal versus Kanika Goyal. This is a classic clash of global mobility meeting local laws. On one side, we have the husband, who is a U.S. citizen. On the other side, we have the wife, who is an Indian citizen and holds an Indian domicile of origin. Let's actually trace the geographical timeline of their marriage, because it complicates things tremendously. Step 1. The couple undergoes an Anand Karaj ceremony, those are Sikh rites, in Delhi. Step 2. They move to the USA and get married again, this time in front of a county circuit court in Illinois. Step 3. The wife becomes a permanent resident in the U.S. But then things break down. Step 4. She applies for divorce and child custody back in India under Section 13 of the Hindu Marriage Act.
The husband naturally argued that since they lived in the U.S. and she was a U.S. permanent resident, well, Indian courts shouldn't have jurisdiction. But the Delhi High Court delivered this definitive ruling. It is not needed for both parties to have domicile in India. The court stated that one party having domicile in India is enough to give jurisdiction. Because the wife retained her Indian domicile of origin, the Hindu Marriage Act absolutely applied. Definitely write that down. It's a phenomenal point to use in any exam essay on jurisdiction.
Section 4. Defining custom and blood. First up is the definition of custom under Section 3A. Now, a custom isn't just something your family happens to do every Diwali. Legally, it has a very strict test. It must be a rule continuously and uniformly observed for a long time. Actually, it's more than just time. It must have obtained the force of law among Hindus in a local area, tribe, community, or family. Crucially, it must not be opposed to public policy or be unreasonable. And finally, if it's a family-unique custom, it must not have been discontinued by that family. If a hypothetical custom comes up on your test, run it through this exact checklist.
Visualizing Section 3C through a family tree is often way better than just reading the raw text. Let's break down how the law categorizes blood relations by tracing back to different types of ancestors.
It really all comes down to the parents. Full blood means two people descend from a common ancestor by the same wife. Half-blood means they descend from a common ancestor, so the same father, but by different wives. So full and half-blood both trace back to a common male ancestor. Now contrast that with uterine blood. This is when two people descend from a common ancestress, meaning the same mother, but by different husbands. Mixing up half-blood and uterine blood is a classic exam trap for sure, so keep this distinction crystal clear.
And finally, Section 5, the Sapinda Rule Decoded. Okay, let's walk through this step by step using a generational diagram. Imagine the person concerned at the bottom. That's our starting point. Let's call them P. From P, the line goes up to the mother and up to the father. Then we trace the generations upwards. On the left, through the mother's side, we see MF2, MF3. On the right, through the father's side, we see F2, F3, F4, F5. Tracing it out like this perfectly maps out the legal boundaries of who you cannot marry. The absolute core of this is what we call the 3 and 5 rule. The Sapinda relationship extends to 3 generations inclusive in the line of ascent through the mother, and it extends to 5 generations inclusive in the line of ascent through the father. I literally cannot stress the word inclusive enough here. That means the person concerned, person P, from our starting point, is counted as the first generation. You always start counting with them as number 1. So combine that generational counting with the family tree, and you get this exact legal definition. Two people are Sapindas of each other if one is a lineal ascendant of the other within the limits of Sapinda relationship, or if they have a common lineal ascendant who is within the limits of Sapinda relationship with reference to each of them. Mastering both the visual logic and the text means you completely own this complex section of the Act. Wow, we've covered a massive amount of ground today, haven't we? From the high-level mapping of the Hindu Marriage Act down to the exact generation counting of the Sapinda rule, and even how international domicile plays out in the Karan Goyal case. But I want to leave you with a provocative thought as you continue studying. As families become increasingly globalized, moving across borders and merging cultures faster than ever before, how will modern courts continue to test the boundaries of these ancient relationship and domicile rules? The law is never static, right? It's always evolving with society. Keep that in mind, stay focused, and you are going to do incredibly well. Happy studying!